Does size matter to you? To some people, size is important. And in this case, is smaller actually better? Is this a gimmick or is it actually practical? Who's this e-bike intended for? To find out those answers and more, continue watching. Today, we're checking out the Hiboy C1, which is by far the smallest and most compact e-bike I've ever reviewed. At first glance, it looks like a scooter with pedals. I'm going to cover all the features and specs of this bike. We're also going to take it for a test ride to see how it performs, and of course later on, I will share my thoughts, both good and not so good, regarding this unique e-bike. But right now, come on over and we'll take a closer look at the C1. Starting off here in the handlebars, we do have just standard rubber grips. Do have your bell. For stopping power, it is front and rear mechanical disc brakes. On the right hand side is your half twist throttle. And right in the center is your one button control module and combination display screen. So long press to turn on and off. It will display your miles per hour. It is flashing Bluetooth. You can connect this to an app for other settings. Battery indicator right there, and right now it's an S for sport mode. There are 3 different, if you want to call them pedal assist or drive modes. To function between those, it's a quick double press. So right now is eco mode, which is the slowest speed it'll go, but it'll give you the most range. Drive mode's right in the middle. It'll go around 15 miles an hour. And a final double press will take you to sport mode, which will give you the highest speed of 20 miles an hour, but of course the shortest amount of battery life. A quick single press will turn the combination headlight and tail light on and off for evening riding, and long press again to power it off. Coming down the stem, we do have our latching mechanism right here for folding, unfolding the handlebars for easier transport. In the front here is our headlight. I will say it's not the brightest. It's a headlight, nothing great about it, but it does function as it should. Surrounding the 14-inch pneumatic tires is front fork suspension, a little bit of comfort for your riding. And as we come our way towards the back, the seat, I actually have to say it's a relatively good seat. Decent width, but super plush. I'll give the seat rating a 4 out of 5. I was expecting a really either hard or small seat for a bike this size, but the seat is really, really good for this bike. Coming down here, underneath the frame, you're going to find a little flap here, and that is a key slot. This does come with keys. That is for unlocking the battery. Right behind the seat stem is the tail light / brake light, which is great for evening riding or riding in groups of people. You can see when you're stopping. And the battery right here. Pull the handle down. There is your charging port. You can charge the battery while it's in the bike, or you can use the keys to remove the battery and pull it out and charge it somewhere else. The battery itself is a 36 volt, 7.amp hour battery, and it does power a rear hub 350 watt motor. And as you can see, there is no additional gears, just one. And lastly, this does have folding pedals. Again, just another feature to make it a little bit more compact for transporting it in your vehicle. I have to stand so far away to get this bike in frame with me because it's so tiny. A couple additional things. The bike itself weighs only 50 pounds, pretty lightweight. Secondly, it has a total payload capacity of 230 pounds. So I'm going to be pushing it today as far as the payload capacity. I am right around 220, right around 10 pounds to spare. So with that being said, I am 5'11". You'll see me riding this. You'll see how it looks. To some people, it may look goofy. To some people, it may not. But I will say though, if you're on the heavier side or say over 6'2", you probably won't want to ride this bike or even consider purchasing it. It's more or less intended for smaller riders. I'd say a person around my size is probably about as big as you want to go as far as height-wise and weight-wise. Lastly, as far as distance goes, on throttle alone has an estimated range of 20 miles. Now again, that's under optimal conditions, lightweight rider, not many hills. And for pedal assist mode, if you're pedaling along with it, can go up to 43 miles. Realistically, a person my size is not going to see that range, but it is going to be expected for a bike this size, battery that size, motor that size. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get on it and see how this thing actually performs. All right, we're about ready to go here. I will say the display is not that bright in sunlight, and we're actually not even in direct sun. So it's a pretty dim screen. You can certainly see it better in shady conditions. So that's something to keep in mind. But I'm starting off in eco mode. We're gonna see what the top speed of that is. Throttle only. And that is topping out at 9 to 10 miles an hour. Looks like it averaged out at 9. Drive mode, full throttle, and we are up to 14, 15 miles an hour. And we have a hill here. We'll keep it going. See how it does on this hill. Climbing, dropping speed down to 7 miles an hour, but we made the hill. Right here we have a nice long straightaway, pretty flat. I'm gonna go into sport mode, do full throttle right now. And up to 10, 13, 14. Brakes are rubbing a little bit, I may have to adjust those. 19, 20. So, like I said, shady conditions, you can see it better, and it does hold true to its top speed of 20 miles an hour. I'm going to do a quick adjustment on these brakes, and then we'll continue. All right, we're back. So mechanical brakes are super easy to adjust. They're nice and quiet now. And I have ridden this a couple times prior to making this video just to kind of get a feel for it, make sure I'm familiar with it, to share everything with you. I do find that the middle mode, drive mode, is the one I use the most. Going up to 15 miles an hour is a pretty comfortable cruising speed, and it gives me enough power for everyday terrain. Now, when it comes to pedaling, which I want to talk about just a little bit, is that pedaling is a little bit strange on this. Now, every e-bike I have reviewed has had gears to shift, usually 1 through 7, 1 through 8, and obviously gives you resistance and speed changes. Well, with this, it's just like compare it to like say a BMX bike that just has 1 gear. So when you pedal, it is effectively pedaling, but it's not doing a whole lot. Like, I'm not able to get a whole lot of speed out of it. And I also noticed too, when I start pedaling, the motor takes about 5 seconds to engage to start assisting. So you are doing pure manual pedaling at first, and then the motor does kick in. Now you can obviously just go full throttle, or throttle only, and pedal when you need to. And that seems to be what is most effective for this bike. This is not a bike that you're going to do a whole lot of pedaling on. Despite its limited range and power, it is a mostly throttle only bike. So if you're riding rail trails like this, going through the city, or just around your neighborhood, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be doing mostly throttle. The pedals are there. You can get exercise, but honestly, I only use them if I'm going to be having difficulty climbing a steep hill. So in my opinion, the pedals do work, but they don't offer a whole lot of additional help as far as leg power when you are going. Like right now I'm pedaling nice and slow. If I go, give it everything I got, I could get up to 12 miles an hour. And if I do go throttle and start pedaling now I'm just freewheeling. There's no resistance at all above 12 miles an hour with the pedals. So that's just something to keep in mind. As far as having control over the bike, obviously being as small as it is, it's really easy to control. Making turns, just maneuvering over different terrain, really easy. Basically anyone could do it. As far as stopping power goes, I will say the brakes do work, but you do feel a bit of a vibration. I don't know if that's typical for this bike or maybe it's just the model that I got. Maybe a brake adjustment could help that, but again, they do stop you, but there is a bit of a vibration, specifically with the front brake. Not a huge deal for me. I believe a simple adjustment would fix that, but just wanted to point out everything I'm noticing with this bike. Now, I did tell you who this bike is not for. I said it's not for people basically larger than me. So who's the bike for? Well, kind of for the opposite. It's going to be for a combination of people. Probably first-time e-bike riders. If you've never ridden an e-bike before, this would be a great starter bike. It's compact, it can fit in the trunk of your car, it's lightweight, and it actually comes 95% assembled. All you really have to do is just mount the handlebar stem onto the post there, and it's pretty much ready to go. If you do want to just cruise around with throttle only, this is a great bike for doing that. And where can you use this? Well, honestly, I think this would be an ideal pit bike. A pit bike is typically like a little tiny motorbike that you bring to, say, car shows or drag racing or car racing, or even like flea markets. Any place that would allow e-bikes or scooters, this would be useful. So if you are someone who goes to car shows, say Rod Run down in Tennessee, you go to Numidia Raceway drag racing, and you want to cover some ground from, like, say, the pit area to the spectator area, this would be an ideal bike for that, because it's going to be compact, lightweight, going to get up to decent speed, and the range should be enough to last you for the day just jetting back and forth. So if you're looking for something like that, by all means, consider the Hiboy C1. If you're looking for a long range bike that's going to take you for miles and miles and miles and climb super steep hills and handle all types of rough terrain, this is going to disappoint you. It's not the bike for that. So if you get this bike knowing its expectations as to where it excels, you're going to love it. If you buy this expecting it to do more than what it's actually capable of doing, you're going to be very disappointed. But that's just common sense with any product. Use it within its specs, within its intended purpose, and you'll be happy with it. Cruising here at top speed, 20 miles an hour, and honestly it feels pretty stable. I was expecting it to feel kind of squirrely, but it feels stable and safe. Do have a little bit of landscape here too if you want to put some accessories. I typically always put like a phone mount and a bottle cup holder. If you're going to be a nighttime rider, you could put an additional light on top as well. But yeah, Hiboy C1, it's gimmicky at first, but actually practical. I'm pretty happy with it. Right now, we're going to get back to an area where I'm going to share my good and not so good thoughts about the Hiboy C1. Despite looking gimmicky, it's actually really fun to ride. It's more fun than I've had on some other bikes. I may look goofy on it, but I honestly don't care. It's an e-bike, it's practical. So I do want to share some good, not so good thoughts about this bike and power it off just in case I don't trigger the motor at all. I'm going to start off with the not so good. Not so good is that pedaling to me is kind of useless. Pedals are there, you can pedal. Anything above 12 miles an hour, you're just free spinning, free wheeling. So pedaling, it's there if you want to use it. It's mostly a throttle bike. Second one is the distance. It's one of the shorter distances I've had on an e-bike, but understandably so. Look at the size of the bike, size of the battery. It's a much smaller battery than most other bikes I have reviewed. So, like I said, if you stay within the realm of what it's capable of performing, that's not going to be an issue. If you think you're going to do an all-day riding trip with this, it's not going to happen. So shorter range to me is a bit of a downfall, but that is to be expected with a bike like this. The third thing, and the last thing, is probably the worst thing for me. It's actually the removal, more importantly, the installation of the battery. I struggle with it. I don't know why. Either it's a design flaw with the bike, or I just got a model that has a tighter housing around the battery. I'm going to show you in real time how it is. Getting the battery out is not super difficult. Putting it back in, it's another story. So we're going to get down here, put the key in. So we're going to turn it to unlock it, get the handle, and then pull. That wasn't that bad. It actually came out easier than it has in the past. That's what the battery looks like. Putting it back in should be the same way, but you're going to see it's not easy at all. It doesn't want to go past there. It just gets wedged in there. So what I end up having to do is basically kind of start rocking it back and forth, and then there, it's actually in now. That was the easiest I got it in, but it's harder compared to some other bikes. I think maybe a little bit of lubrication around it may help. I don't know if that's good or not. I think more so just taking it in and out more often may help just ease the friction, the tightness around it. Personally, if you're gonna have this bike, it's small enough you could take it almost anywhere, whether it's inside your work office or your home. Leave the battery in, charge it while it's in there. But just keep in mind, if you do get this bike, you may or may not have a difficult time with the battery. If you do, it's not you, because I had the same trouble. So let's talk the pros. Let's talk the good things about this bike. So number one, for starters, as I already said, the seat. The seat's great. I love it. The seat actually looks oversized for this bike. It looks like it's out of proportion, but it's a super soft, comfortable seat. I don't think you'll have to change it out. That combined with the riding position just makes it a really comfortable ride. Number two, it's affordable. This retails at under $500. So if you're looking to get into the e-bike world, this is definitely a considerable option. Secondly, if you have kids that want to get e-bikes, you can get a couple of these for under $1,000. You know, if you have teenagers, they want to get into e-bikes, they see their friends riding them around, this is a great starter option. It's not too big, not too heavy, easy to control, minimal functions, minimal maintenance on it. Great for kids or just anyone getting into the first e-bike, as long as they know the limits of it, as we already talked about. Lastly, it's compact. You know, the pedals fold in half, the handlebars go down, and you have a really compact e-bike. I mean, I can do this one-handed. Can't do this with other e-bikes, so that is all factors to keep in mind, both good and bad, that it's a practical e-bike. It's not a gimmick, but it's not a long-range runner. It's not a steep hill climber. It's not an off-road beast, but it's a fun little bike to get around on. It's a pit bike. It's just a leisure bike, but use it within its expected performance levels and you'll be really, really happy with it. With that being said, I do want to thank Hiboy once again for reaching out to me to allow me to review the Hiboy C1. I have reviewed multiple items with them, and this is the first compact mini bike I've ever reviewed. And it's definitely a hybrid of scooter and e-bike. And lastly, if you want to see more e-bike reviews or comparisons, check the playlist down below in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.